In the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and streets buzzed with the energy of hurried footsteps, there was a small cafe tucked away on a quiet corner. The cafe wasn't particularly fancy. Its walls were painted in warm tones, adorned with quirky artwork, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet aroma of pastries. It was a place where people from all walks of life would gather to escape the chaos outside, even if just for a few moments. On this particular morning, the weather was gloomy. Dark rain clouds loomed overhead, spilling droplets onto the pavement below. Umbrellas popped open like colorful flowers as pedestrians rushed to their destinations. Inside the cafe, however, it was cozy and inviting. The soft hum of conversation blended with the hiss of the espresso machine, creating a comforting backdrop for those seeking refuge from the storm. Emily Carter stood in line, clutching her umbrella tightly in one hand while scrolling through her phone with the other. She was dressed simply, a beige sweater paired with jeans, and her shoulder bag carried not only her belongings but also the weight of responsibilities she juggled daily. At 32 years old, Emily wore many hats. She was a freelance graphic designer trying to build a steady career, a devoted single mother to her 6-year-old daughter Lily, and someone who often put others' needs before her own. Life hadn't been easy for Emily. After leaving an unhealthy relationship several years ago, she found herself navigating the world alone, determined to provide a better future for her child. Her days were filled with long hours spent working on design projects, chasing deadlines, and managing household chores. Money was tight, and every expense required careful consideration. Yet despite the challenges, Emily remained optimistic. She believed in hard work, kindness, and the idea that good things came to those who stayed patient. As she waited in line, Emily glanced around the cafe. A young couple sat by the window, sharing laughter over steaming cups of coffee. An elderly man read a newspaper at a nearby table, occasionally sipping his tea. Behind the counter, baristas moved efficiently, taking orders and preparing drinks. Everything seemed ordinary, until her attention shifted to the person standing directly ahead of her. It was a man in his late 50s or early 60s, dressed in clothes that looked worn, yet clean. His navy blue jacket had patches on the elbows, and his shoes bore scuffs from years of use. He held a tattered notebook close to his chest, its edges frayed from constant handling. His hair was streaked with gray, slightly unkempt, and his face carried lines that spoke of a life full of experiences, some joyful, others perhaps difficult. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet. As he opened it, Emily noticed how thin it was, the kind of thinness that suggested limited funds inside. He hesitated, counting the few bills he had, then glanced nervously at the menu board above the counter. It was clear he didn't have enough money to cover whatever he intended to order. His shoulders slumped slightly, and for a brief moment he looked defeated. Emily felt a pang of empathy. She knew what it was like to worry about finances, to count coins and hope they added up to something meaningful. Without giving it much thought, she stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said softly, catching the man's attention. Startled, he turned to face her, his eyes widening slightly. "Would you like me to get that for you?" Emily gestured toward the register. For a second, the man seemed unsure how to respond. Then a flicker of gratitude crossed his features. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. "Absolutely," Emily replied with a warm smile. "It's no trouble at all." Reluctantly, the man nodded. "Thank you," he murmured, his tone sincere. "I'll pay you back someday." Emily waved off the comment lightly. "Don't worry about it. Consider it my good deed for the day." With that, she handed over some cash to the barista, covering both her own order and the man's modest request: a black coffee. As the transaction was completed, the man offered Emily another grateful nod before stepping aside to wait for his drink. They exchanged no further words. He simply took his coffee when it was ready and left the cafe without looking back. What Emily didn't know, and couldn't possibly have guessed, was that the man she had helped was far more than he appeared to be. Beneath the unassuming exterior lay a remarkable identity. Victor Langston, one of the wealthiest individuals in the country. Known for his vast empire spanning real estate, technology, and philanthropy, Victor had amassed a fortune that most could only dream of. But wealth hadn't shielded him from cynicism. Over the years, he had grown disillusioned with humanity, convinced that true kindness was a rare commodity in a world driven by greed and self-interest. To test his theory, Victor had taken to disguising himself as an average person, wandering public spaces to observe human behavior. He sought evidence of genuine compassion, acts performed without ulterior motives or expectations of reward. So far, the results had been disappointing. Most people ignored him. Some judged him based on appearances, and very few showed any form of kindness. That is, until today. As Victor walked away from the cafe, sipping his coffee, he replayed the interaction in his mind. Emily's gesture had been simple yet profound. There had been no hesitation, no calculation. It was pure, instinctive generosity. For the first time in a long while, Victor felt a spark of hope. Perhaps kindness still existed after all. Meanwhile, back at the cafe, Emily returned to her routine, unaware of the impact her small act had made. She collected her latte, slipped into a seat by the window, and began sketching ideas for a new project. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing away traces of the morning rush. Inside, the warmth of human connection lingered, a reminder that sometimes the simplest actions can set extraordinary events into motion. The rain had stopped by the time Victor Langston stepped out of the cafe, clutching the warm cup of coffee Emily had bought for him. He walked slowly, his mind replaying every detail of their brief encounter. The way she had smiled, genuine, unforced, and kind, stuck with him. It wasn't just the act itself that intrigued him, but the ease with which she had done it. There had been no hesitation, no calculation behind her eyes. She hadn't asked for anything in return, nor did she seem to expect recognition or praise. To her, it was simply the right thing to do. Victor couldn't shake the feeling that he had stumbled upon something rare, a pure, selfless act in a world that often felt transactional. As someone who had spent decades navigating boardrooms, negotiating deals, and observing human behavior, he prided himself on being able to read people. Yet there was something about Emily Carter that defied his usual understanding. Who was this woman? What drove her to help a stranger without a second thought? These questions gnawed at him, sparking a curiosity he hadn't felt in years. Determined to find answers, Victor decided to dig deeper. Back at his penthouse office overlooking the city skyline, he summoned his assistant Rachel and gave her a simple task. Find out everything you can about the woman who paid for my coffee today. Rachel raised an eyebrow, but didn't question her boss's request. Over the years, she had learned not to pry too deeply into Victor's personal projects. Instead, she nodded and got to work. Using discreet methods, social media profiles, public records, and a few well-placed inquiries, Rachel pieced together Emily's life story. By the end of the day, Victor had a detailed report sitting on his desk. As he flipped through the pages, his respect for Emily grew even further. Born and raised in a modest neighborhood, she had always been creative, excelling in art classes during school. After graduating from a local college with a degree in graphic design, she worked tirelessly to establish herself as a freelancer. However, life threw her curveballs when her marriage ended abruptly, leaving her to raise her young daughter alone. Despite the challenges, Emily remained resilient. She juggled multiple jobs, freelanced late into the night, and poured her heart into creating designs that reflected her passion for storytelling. Her portfolio showcased a range of styles, from playful illustrations for children's books to sleek branding concepts for small businesses. But what struck Victor most was how little fanfare surrounded her achievements. Unlike many professionals who craved attention or validation, Emily seemed content to quietly build her career while prioritizing her family. Her financial struggles were evident too. Rent payments were sometimes delayed, and she relied heavily on freelance gigs to make ends meet. Still, she managed to save a portion of her earnings for her daughter's education fund. Neighbors described her as kind-hearted and dependable, always willing to lend a hand whenever needed. One neighbor mentioned how Emily once helped organize a community fundraiser for a family facing medical bills. Another recalled how she babysat kids in the building free of charge when parents were swamped with work. As Victor absorbed these details, he found himself reflecting on his own life. Wealth and success had brought him countless opportunities, yet they had also distanced him from the simplicity of human connection. He remembered a time when he used to value relationships over riches, back before his empire consumed every waking moment. Somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. Now, here was Emily, a woman with limited resources, but boundless generosity, reminding him of those forgotten values. Inspired by what he had learned, Victor began formulating a plan. He wanted to repay Emily's kindness, not with grand gestures or flashy displays, but in a way that honored her spirit. He envisioned helping her unlock her potential, giving her the tools and opportunities to thrive without overshadowing her hard work. At the same time, he hoped to learn from her, to rediscover the joy of authenticity and compassion that had eluded him for so long. Over the next few days, Victor mulled over various ideas. He considered sending her an anonymous donation or gifting her expensive equipment for her design work, but none of these options felt right. They risked coming across as impersonal or patronizing, undermining the very essence of Emily's gesture. No, he realized, whatever he did needed to be thoughtful, meaningful, and rooted in mutual respect. Finally, inspiration struck. Victor decided to approach Emily professionally, presenting her with an opportunity that would allow her talents to shine while providing her with the stability she deserved. He knew of a high-profile luxury brand looking for fresh creative input for their upcoming campaign. Their target audience valued uniqueness and innovation, qualities that perfectly aligned with Emily's style. If she agreed to collaborate, it could be a game-changer for her career. But there was one catch. Victor intended to reveal his involvement only after she accepted the project. He wanted her decision to be based solely on her interest in the work, not influenced by his wealth or reputation. This subtle test would ensure that her motivations remained genuine, just like her act of kindness in the cafe. With the plan set in motion, Victor reached out to the luxury brand's executives, pitching the idea of hiring an up-and-coming designer whose vision aligned with their brand ethos. Once they agreed, he instructed Rachel to send Emily an email inviting her to participate in the project. The message was crafted carefully, highlighting the scope of the collaboration and emphasizing the creative freedom she would have. It concluded with a note expressing admiration for her portfolio, which Rachel had discovered online. When Emily received the email later that week, she stared at the screen in disbelief. A prestigious brand wanted her to contribute to their campaign? It sounded too good to be true. She reread the message several times, searching for hidden strings or fine print. Finding none, she allowed herself a moment of excitement. Could this be the break she had been waiting for? Still skeptical but unwilling to pass up such a golden opportunity, Emily replied to the email, confirming her interest. Within hours, she received confirmation of a meeting scheduled for the following week. As she prepared for the appointment, her mind raced with possibilities. She scoured her portfolio, selecting pieces that best represented her versatility and creativity. She practiced her pitch, rehearsing how she would present her ideas. And though doubt lingered in the corners of her thoughts, she reminded herself to stay hopeful. On the day of the meeting, Emily dressed in her best professional attire, a tailored blazer paired with trousers, and arrived at the designated address. The building was sleek and modern, its glass facade gleaming under the morning sun. Inside, the reception area exuded elegance, with minimalist decor and soft lighting. As she checked in with the front desk, her nerves kicked into high gear. Moments later, a tall man emerged from a nearby office, his presence commanding yet approachable. Emily recognized him instantly. It was the same man from the cafe. For a split second, she froze, unsure whether she was hallucinating or if fate had played some cosmic joke on her. Then, reality sank in. The stranger she had helped weeks ago was now standing before her, extending a hand and introducing himself as Victor Langston. Ms. Carter, he said warmly, his voice steady and reassuring. Thank you for coming. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Emily shook his hand, her mind racing to process the situation. Was this some elaborate prank? Or was Victor truly the person behind the mysterious project invitation? Whatever the case, she resolved to keep her composure and see where this unexpected twist would lead. Little did she know this meeting would mark the beginning of a journey that would change her life forever. The meeting room was spacious and flooded with natural light, its large windows offering a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Emily sat across from Victor Langston, her heart pounding as she tried to process the surreal situation. The man, who had stood in line at the cafe weeks ago, the one whose coffee she had paid for without a second thought, was now sitting before her. A billionaire entrepreneur known for his vast empire and philanthropic efforts. Despite her initial shock, Emily reminded herself to stay focused. This was a professional setting, and she couldn't let her nerves overshadow the opportunity in front of her. Victor began the conversation by thanking Emily for coming. His tone was calm and friendly, putting her slightly at ease. I'll get straight to the point, he said, leaning forward slightly. We're looking for someone with fresh ideas and a unique perspective to collaborate on an upcoming campaign. When I came across your portfolio, I was impressed by your creativity and attention to detail. Your work speaks volumes about your talent. Emily nodded, still trying to steady her breathing. Thank you, she replied softly. That means a lot. She glanced down at her folder, clutching it tightly as if it were a lifeline. I'd love to hear more about the project. Victor smiled faintly, noticing her nervousness but appreciating her professionalism. He explained that the luxury brand aimed to launch a new line of products targeting young professionals who valued authenticity and craftsmanship. They wanted designs that told a story, something personal yet universal, elegant but approachable. As he spoke, Emily listened, intently, jotting down notes and nodding along. Despite her anxiety, her passion for design began to shine through. When Victor finished outlining the project, he paused and looked directly at her. This is where you come in, he said. Your style feels like a perfect fit for what we're trying to achieve. We want you to take the lead on this campaign, to bring your vision to life. Emily's eyes widened, and for a moment she forgot how to respond. Lead the campaign? Her? It felt almost too monumental to comprehend. Finally, she managed to stammer. Are you sure? I mean, I'm honored, but why me? Victor leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. Because your work resonates, he said simply. It's clear you put your heart into everything you create. And honestly, he hesitated briefly, debating whether to reveal the truth. There's something else. Something that made you stand out even before I saw your portfolio. Emily frowned, confusion etched across her face. What do you mean? Victor took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. Do you remember that day at the cafe? The rainy morning when you bought coffee for a stranger? Her jaw dropped. Wait, are you saying you were that man? She asked incredulously. He nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. Yes, I was. That act of kindness, it wasn't just a random gesture to me. It reminded me of something I've been missing in my own life. Genuine human connection. People often treat me differently because of who I am. But you didn't know any of that. You saw someone in need and helped without expecting anything in return. That's rare, Ms. Carter. Very rare. Emily felt a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Surprise, disbelief, and a touch of embarrassment. I didn't think much of it at the time, she admitted. It just felt like the right thing to do. And that's exactly why it mattered, Victor said firmly. You didn't do it for recognition or reward, you did it because it was kind. That's the kind of person we need working on this project. Someone who understands the value of authenticity. For a moment, Emily was speechless. She had never imagined that such a small act could have such a profound impact. Slowly, she found her voice again. Thank you for trusting me with this, she said sincerely. I won't let you down." Over the next hour, they discussed the specifics of the project, the timeline, the budget, and the creative direction. Victor encouraged Emily to share her thoughts freely, assuring her that her input was invaluable. As they talked, Emily began to relax, her confidence growing with each passing minute. By the end of the meeting, she felt not only excited about the collaboration but also inspired by Victor's vision. In the days that followed, Emily threw herself into the project with unwavering dedication. She spent countless hours brainstorming ideas, sketching drafts, and refining concepts. Her workspace became a whirlwind of papers, markers, and digital tablets, evidence of her relentless pursuit of perfection. For the first time in years, she felt truly alive, as though every fiber of her being was aligned with her purpose. Victor checked in regularly, offering guidance and feedback whenever needed. To Emily's surprise, he wasn't the intimidating figure she had initially imagined. Instead, he was supportive and approachable, always eager to listen to her ideas. Their conversations often veered beyond the project itself, touching on topics like art, philosophy, and even life lessons. Through these exchanges, Emily began to see Victor not just as a wealthy businessman, but as a mentor and friend. One afternoon, while reviewing some preliminary sketches, Victor shared a piece of advice that stayed with Emily long after their meeting ended. "Great design isn't just about aesthetics," he said thoughtfully. "It's about emotion. It's about telling a story that connects with people on a deeper level. Think about what you want your audience to feel when they see your work. Let that guide you." His words resonated deeply with Emily. Growing up, she had always believed that art had the power to heal, inspire, and unite. Now, Victor was reminding her of that truth, encouraging her to channel her experiences and emotions into her designs. With renewed determination, she revisited her sketches, infusing them with layers of meaning and personal reflection. As the weeks passed, Emily's hard work began to pay off. Her concepts started taking shape, transforming from rough drafts into polished masterpieces. One design featured a series of illustrations depicting everyday moments: a child laughing, hands clasped in friendship, a sunrise breaking over the horizon. Another incorporated intricate patterns inspired by nature, symbolizing growth and resilience. Each piece told a story, capturing the essence of authenticity and humanity. When Emily presented her final designs to Victor and the luxury brand's executives, the room fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen, captivated by the beauty and depth of her work. For several moments, no one spoke. Then, slowly, applause erupted, filling the room with admiration and approval. "That's incredible," one executive murmured, shaking his head in disbelief. "These designs are exactly what we were hoping for, and more." Victor beamed with pride, turning to Emily with a look of quiet satisfaction. "You've done it," he said softly, his voice tinged with emotion. "You've created something extraordinary." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she absorbed the magnitude of the moment. All her struggles, sacrifices, and sleepless nights had led to this, a breakthrough that validated her talent and affirmed her dreams. But more than that, it proved that kindness could open doors she never knew existed. With the campaign officially underway, Emily's life began to change in ways she hadn't anticipated. The exposure brought her widespread recognition, leading to new clients and opportunities flooding in. Suddenly, she was no longer struggling to make ends meet. Instead, she found herself juggling multiple projects, each more exciting than the last. Yet despite the whirlwind of success, she remained grounded, always remembering the values that had guided her journey. Victor continued to play a pivotal role in her life, mentoring her through the challenges of entrepreneurship and teaching her the intricacies of running a business. Under his guidance, Emily learned to negotiate contracts, manage finances, and build a team of trusted collaborators. What started as a professional relationship blossomed into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared experiences. But perhaps the most significant change occurred within Emily herself. The once hesitant designer who doubted her abilities now walked with confidence, knowing that her voice mattered. She realized that success wasn't defined solely by wealth or accolades. It was about staying true to oneself and making a positive impact on the world. As the campaign launched to critical acclaim, Emily reflected on how far she had come since that rainy morning in the cafe. Buying a stranger's coffee had seemed like a small, insignificant act at the time, but it had set into motion a chain of events that transformed her life and, unbeknownst to her, reignited a sense of hope and purpose in Victor's little. Did Emily know this was only the beginning? Together, she and Victor were about to embark on a mission that would extend far beyond design, a mission rooted in kindness, creativity, and the belief that even the smallest gestures could spark extraordinary change. The success of the luxury brand's campaign marked a turning point, not only in Emily Carter's career but also in her relationship with Victor Langston. What had started as a professional collaboration evolved into something much deeper, a partnership built on trust, mutual admiration, and a shared vision for creating meaningful change. As Emily's designs gained widespread acclaim, she found herself stepping into a role she had never imagined, that of a leader and innovator in the design industry. Meanwhile, Victor discovered a renewed sense of purpose, inspired by Emily's humility and unwavering commitment to her craft. With the campaign behind them, Victor invited Emily to join him for dinner at an upscale restaurant downtown. The evening was meant to celebrate their achievements, but it quickly turned into a heartfelt conversation about the future. Over plates of gourmet cuisine and glasses of fine wine, Victor opened up about his motivations. "You've reminded me of something I lost sight of," he admitted, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "Kindness doesn't just exist, it has the power to transform lives, including my own." Emily listened intently, touched by his honesty. She had always seen Victor as a larger-than-life figure, someone untouchable because of his wealth and influence. But now, sitting across from him, she realized he was human, burdened by doubts and searching for meaning just like anyone else. "I think we all have moments when we forget what really matters," she replied gently. "It's okay to lose your way sometimes, as long as you find it again." Victor smiled, appreciating her wisdom. "That's exactly why I want to keep working with you," he said. "Not just professionally, but personally. Together, I believe we can do more than create beautiful designs. We can make a difference." From that night on, their partnership took on a new dimension. Victor proposed expanding their efforts beyond individual projects to focus on fostering creativity and kindness within communities. He envisioned establishing a foundation that would support underprivileged artists, providing them with resources, mentorship, and opportunities to showcase their work. Emily loved the idea and eagerly agreed to help bring it to life. Over the next few months, they worked tirelessly to turn this vision into reality. Emily used her growing network in the design world to identify talented individuals who lacked access to formal training or platforms to display their art. Victor leveraged his financial resources and connections to secure funding and partnerships with schools, galleries, and nonprofit organizations. Together, they crafted a program that combined workshops, scholarships, and exhibitions, ensuring that participants received comprehensive support throughout their artistic journeys. One of the first beneficiaries of their initiative was a young man named Marcus who lived in a low-income neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. Marcus had a natural talent for painting, often using discarded materials to create vibrant murals on abandoned buildings. Despite his passion, he struggled to afford supplies and feared he'd never be taken seriously as an artist. When Emily and Victor heard about him, they reached out immediately, inviting him to participate in their program. Marcus was hesitant at first, unsure if he belonged in such a prestigious environment. But Emily reassured him, sharing her own story of overcoming self-doubt and adversity. "Art isn't about where you come from," she told him during one of their meetings. "It's about what you have to say. And trust me, your voice matters." Under their guidance, Marcus flourished. He learned advanced techniques, experimented with new mediums, and eventually held his first solo exhibition at a local gallery. The event drew crowds of people eager to experience his bold, thought-provoking pieces. By the end of the night, Marcus stood on stage, tears streaming down his face as he thanked Emily and Victor for believing in him. "This wouldn't have been possible without you," he said, his voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for giving me a chance to dream bigger." Stories like Marcus's became a testament to the impact of Emily and Victor's foundation. As word spread, more aspiring artists began reaching out, hoping to join the program. Each participant brought unique perspectives and experiences, enriching the community and inspiring others to pursue their passions fearlessly. For Emily, watching these transformations unfold was incredibly rewarding. It reinforced her belief that creativity could serve as a powerful tool for healing and empowerment. While the foundation thrived, Emily's personal life underwent its own transformation. With her newfound financial stability, she was able to provide her daughter Lily with opportunities she had once only dreamed of. They moved to a safer neighborhood, enrolled Lily in a better school, and spent weekends exploring museums, parks, and cultural events. For the first time in years, Emily felt a sense of peace, knowing she could give her child the childhood she deserved. Lily, too, seemed to inherit her mother's creative spirit. Encouraged by Emily, she began experimenting with drawing and painting, filling notebooks with colorful sketches and imaginative stories. Watching her daughter grow into a confident, curious young girl filled Emily with immense pride. She often thought about how different their lives might have been if she hadn't taken that leap of faith years ago, if she hadn't decided to follow her dreams despite the odds. Victor, too, experienced a profound shift in his outlook. Through his work with Emily and the foundation, he rediscovered the joy of connecting with people on a human level. He no longer viewed wealth as merely a measure of success, but as a means to uplift others and leave a lasting legacy. His cynicism faded, replaced by optimism and gratitude. He marveled at how a single act of kindness, Emily buying his coffee, had set off a ripple effect, touching countless lives, including his own. As their bond deepened, Emily and Victor became inseparable collaborators, mentors, and friends. They balanced each other perfectly. Emily's empathy and creativity complemented Victor's strategic thinking and business acumen. Their differences made them stronger, enabling them to tackle challenges head-on while staying true to their shared values. One day, as they walked through the bustling streets of the city, Emily turned to Victor and asked, "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if I hadn't helped you that morning?" Victor chuckled, shaking his head. "Honestly, I try not to think about it. That moment changed everything. For both of us. Sometimes I wonder if fate brought us together for a reason." Emily smiled, glancing around at the vibrant cityscape surrounding them. Maybe it did. Or maybe it was just two people choosing to be kind, even when they didn't know it mattered. Whatever the explanation, there was no denying the profound connection they shared. Their journey, from a chance encounter in a cafe to building a foundation that inspired thousands, was proof that kindness wasn't just a fleeting gesture. It was a catalyst for change, capable of sparking extraordinary outcomes. As the foundation grew, so did its reach. Emily and Victor expanded their programs to include not only visual arts, but also music, writing, and performing arts. They partnered with schools to integrate arts education into curriculums, recognizing its importance in nurturing well-rounded individuals. They organized community events that celebrated creativity and diversity, bringing people together across cultural and socioeconomic divides. Through it all, Emily remained humble, refusing to let fame or recognition overshadow her mission. She continued to pour her heart into every project, driven by the belief that art had the power to unite, heal, and inspire. Victor, meanwhile, embraced his role as a champion of kindness, using his platform to advocate for causes close event type. As the years passed, Emily Carter and Victor Langston's foundation became a beacon of hope and inspiration for countless individuals. What had started as a small initiative to support struggling artists evolved into a nationwide movement that championed creativity, kindness, and community. Their programs reached far beyond the city where it all began, spreading to underserved areas across the country. Art studios popped up in neighborhoods once devoid of cultural resources, music filled spaces that had long been silent, and stories, both, written and spoken, found new voices eager to share them. The impact of their work was undeniable. Young people who might have otherwise slipped through the cracks discovered passions they never knew they had. A teenager from a rural town became a published poet after attending one of the Foundation's writing workshops. A single mother with a love for photography launched her own business, capturing moments that celebrated life in its rawest form. An elderly man, inspired by the Foundation's emphasis on storytelling, began painting murals that depicted his community's history, preserving memories for future generations. Each success story added another layer to the legacy Emily and Victor were building together, a legacy rooted in compassion and creativity. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of their journey was how it transformed not just others, but also themselves. For Emily, the Foundation represented more than professional fulfillment. It symbolized resilience, growth, and the power of staying true to oneself. She often reflected on the winding path that had brought her here, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, and the moments when she doubted whether she could keep going. Yet, looking back, she realized every challenge had prepared her for this role. Her act of kindness at the cafe hadn't just changed someone else's life. It had set her on a course toward discovering her own potential. Victor, too, had undergone a profound transformation. Once consumed by cynicism and disillusionment, he now approached life with a renewed sense of purpose. He no longer measured success solely by financial achievements or corporate milestones. Instead, he found joy in seeing the smiles of children painting their first masterpieces, hearing musicians perform songs born out of hardship, and witnessing communities come alive with art. His wealth, once a source of isolation, became a tool for connection, a way to give back to a world that had given him so much. Their friendship deepened over time, becoming a cornerstone of their lives. They spent hours discussing ideas, brainstorming solutions, and dreaming about the future. Though their backgrounds couldn't have been more different, they shared an unspoken understanding, a belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples capable of transforming lives. Together, they proved that collaboration wasn't just about combining skills. It was about uniting hearts and minds to achieve something greater than either could accomplish alone. One day, as they sat in Victor's penthouse office overlooking the city skyline, Emily turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "Do you remember that morning at the cafe?" she asked, smiling softly. "When I think about how everything unfolded, it feels like magic." Victor chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Magic? Maybe. Or maybe it was just two people, choosing to be kind without knowing what would come of it." "I like to think it was both," Emily replied, her eyes twinkling. "Kindness is magical, don't you think? It opens doors we didn't even know existed." He nodded, his gaze drifting toward the horizon. "You're right. And look where it's taken us. Who would have thought buying a cup of coffee could lead to all this?" Their laughter echoed through the room, a testament to the bond they had forged. But beneath the light-hearted moment lay a deeper truth. Their journey was proof that humanity thrived on connection. Whether it was a stranger helping another in need, a mentor guiding a protege, or a community rallying around a shared vision, these connections formed the threads that wove society together. To ensure their efforts continued long after they were gone, Emily and Victor established a permanent endowment for the Foundation. The fund would provide ongoing support for programs, ensuring that future generations would benefit from the same opportunities they had created. They also documented their experiences, publishing a book titled Ripples of Kindness that chronicled their journey, from that fateful morning in the cafe to the global movement they had built. The book became a bestseller, inspiring readers around the world to embrace kindness as a way of life. In addition to their work with the Foundation, Emily and Victor began speaking at conferences, schools, and community events. They shared their story openly, encouraging others to recognize the power of small actions. "You don't need to be wealthy or famous to make a difference," Emily often said during her talks. "Sometimes, all it takes is paying attention to the person next to you, offering a smile, lending a hand, or simply being present. Those moments matter." Victor echoed her sentiments, emphasizing the importance of humility. Success isn't about titles or bank accounts, he told audiences. It's about leaving the world better than you found it. And trust me, you don't have to wait until you're successful to start doing that. Their message resonated deeply, sparking conversations about kindness, empathy, and the value of human connection. People began sharing their own stories of unexpected encounters and acts of generosity, creating a ripple effect of positivity that extended far beyond Emily and Victor's immediate circle. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like ripples of kindness and pay it forward, as individuals pledged to spread goodwill in their daily lives. For Emily, the highlight of their advocacy came when Lily, now a teenager, joined forces with her mother to launch a youth-focused branch of the foundation. Dubbed Young Creators, the program aimed to empower adolescents to express themselves through art while fostering leadership skills. Watching her daughter take charge of such an initiative filled Emily with immense pride. "She's carrying the torch," Emily told Victor one evening, tears glistening in her eyes. "I couldn't ask for anything more." Victor smiled warmly. "She's extraordinary, just like her mom." As the foundation continued to grow, Emily and Victor made a conscious effort to stay grounded. Despite their accomplishments, they remained approachable and humble, always prioritizing the needs of those they served. They visited program sites regularly, listening to participants' feedback and celebrating their achievements. They attended exhibitions, performances, and readings, cheering on the artists whose journeys they had helped shape. And through it all, they reminded themselves, and everyone else, that kindness was never about grand gestures. It was about consistency, sincerity, and love. Years later, as Emily stood on stage at an awards ceremony accepting recognition for her contributions to the arts, she paused to reflect on the incredible journey that had led her there. "This award isn't mine alone," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "It belongs to every person who believed in our mission, every artist who dared to dream, and every individual who chose kindness when it mattered most. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that we're all connected. Our actions, no matter how small, have the power to change lives, including our own." The audience erupted into applause, standing to honor not just Emily but the collective spirit of compassion and creativity she represented. Among the crowd was Victor, clapping proudly, his eyes shining with admiration. As their gazes met, they exchanged a silent nod, a reminder of where it all began and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. And so, their story served as a timeless reminder. Kindness wasn't just an act. It was a choice that could spark extraordinary change. From a rainy morning in a cafe to a global movement that touched millions, Emily and Victor's journey proved that even the simplest gestures could leave lasting legacies. In a world often divided by differences, they showed that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to connect, inspire, and uplift one another. Though the story of Emily Carter and Victor Langston had already reached incredible heights, their journey was far from over. The foundation they built together continued to grow, evolving into a global force that transcended borders and cultures. What began as a local initiative in a small cafe now spanned continents, inspiring communities worldwide to embrace creativity and kindness as tools for change. Their vision had become a movement, one that reminded people of the beauty of humanity and the power of connection. As the years went by, Emily found herself traveling more frequently, visiting cities and towns where the Foundation's programs had taken root. From bustling metropolises to remote villages, she witnessed firsthand how art could transform lives. In one community, she met a group of women who used embroidery to tell stories of resilience and hope, turning their struggles into intricate tapestries that celebrated survival. In another, she watched children paint murals on crumbling walls, breathing new life into forgotten spaces. Each visit reinforced her belief that creativity wasn't just about aesthetics. It was a universal language that bridged divides and fostered understanding. Victor, too, embraced his role as a global advocate for kindness and innovation. He attended international conferences, addressing audiences of leaders, entrepreneurs, and changemakers. His speeches often centered on the idea that true success wasn't measured by wealth or power, but by the positive impact one left on the world. "We live in a time when technology connects us instantly," he once said during a TED Talk. "But real connection, the kind that changes hearts and minds, comes from acts of kindness, empathy, and shared purpose. It's up to all of us to create those moments." Together, Emily and Victor expanded the foundation's reach, partnering with organizations that aligned with their mission. They collaborated with schools to integrate arts education into curriculums, ensuring that future generations would have access to creative outlets. They worked with governments to implement policies supporting underprivileged artists, advocating for funding and resources to sustain their work. And they teamed up with corporations to establish mentorship programs, pairing aspiring creatives with industry professionals who could guide them on their journeys. But perhaps the most impactful project they undertook was the creation of the Kindness Archive, a digital platform designed to document and celebrate acts of generosity from around the world. The archive featured stories submitted by individuals who had experienced or witnessed kindness in action, from strangers helping each other during natural disasters to teachers going above and beyond for their students. Each entry included photos, videos, and personal reflections, creating a living testament to the goodness that existed in the world. The Kindness Archive quickly gained traction, becoming a source of inspiration for millions. People logged on not only to share their own stories but also to read about others' experiences, finding comfort and encouragement in knowing they weren't alone. For many, the archive served as a reminder that even in times of hardship, humanity's capacity for compassion remained unwavering. Emily and Victor were overwhelmed by the response, realizing that their efforts had tapped into something deeply universal, the desire to connect and uplift one another. Despite their growing influence, Emily and Victor never lost sight of what mattered most, their friendship and shared values. They made it a point to carve out time for each other, whether it was enjoying quiet dinners at Victor's penthouse or taking long walks through the city streets. During these moments, they reflected on how far they'd come and discussed their dreams for the future. "Do you ever think about retirement?" Emily asked him one evening as they strolled along the waterfront. Victor laughed, shaking his head. "Retirement? I don't think I'll ever stop working, but maybe I'll slow down a bit. There's still so much to do." Emily smiled, nodding in agreement. "Same here. This isn't just a job for me, it's my life's work. But I wouldn't trade it for anything." Their bond remained unshakable, grounded in mutual respect and admiration. They challenged each other to dream bigger, push harder, and stay true to their principles. Even as their responsibilities grew, they supported one another through every triumph and challenge, proving that partnerships built on trust and kindness could withstand anything. Meanwhile, Lily, a shining example of the next generation, continued to make waves with her leadership of young creators. Under her guidance, the program flourished, empowering young people to use art as a vehicle for social change. She organized festivals, exhibitions, and workshops that brought youth from diverse backgrounds together, fostering dialogue and collaboration. Her passion and determination inspired countless others to follow in her footsteps, including a shy teenager named Ava, who discovered her love for poetry through the program and went on to win a national award for her writing. One day, while attending an event celebrating the Foundation's 10th anniversary, Emily stood on stage alongside Victor and Lily, reflecting on the incredible journey they had shared. "When I bought that cup of coffee all those years ago," she began, her voice filled with emotion, "I had no idea it would lead to this. I didn't know it would bring me a friend like Victor, a daughter as remarkable as Lily, or a community as extraordinary as all of you. But looking back, I realize that's the beauty of kindness. It opens doors we can't even imagine." The audience erupted into applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation. As Emily scanned the room, she saw faces filled with gratitude, determination, and hope. Among them were Marcus, whose murals now adorned public spaces across the city, the women who transformed their pain into embroidered masterpieces, and countless others whose lives had been touched by the Foundation's work. In that moment, Emily felt an overwhelming sense of fulfillment, not because of the accolades or achievements, but because she knew they had made a difference. After the event, Emily and Victor sat together, sipping coffee and reminiscing about the past decade. "You know," Victor said thoughtfully, "when I first walked into that cafe, I was searching for proof that kindness still existed. I never expected to find someone like you, or to be part of something this meaningful." Emily smiled, placing a hand on his arm. "And I never expected to meet someone like you. You've taught me so much about believing in myself and trusting that even the smallest actions can have a big impact." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. Though their journey had been filled with challenges and triumphs, one thing remained constant: their commitment to making the world a better place. Together, they had proven that kindness wasn't just an act, it was a way of life. And as long as there were people willing to choose compassion over indifference, the ripple effects would continue to spread, touching lives in ways they couldn't predict. Years later, when historians looked back on the era defined by Emily and Victor's legacy, they would speak not only of their accomplishments but also of the values they embodied. Their story became a symbol of hope, a testament to the idea that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to connect, inspire, and uplift one another. From a rainy morning in a cafe to a global movement that transcended boundaries, Emily and Victor's journey reminded the world of one simple truth: kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change everything.